Hello, everyone. We are on to week 17 of our pillar principles. This week is Speak Straight, defined as speak honestly in a way that helps to make progress, say what you mean respectfully, and be willing to ask questions, share ideas, or raise issues that may cause conflict when it's necessary for team success. Be courageous enough to say what needs to be said, address issues directly with those who are involved or affected. This is, I think, a very difficult principle for many people. And I think a lot of that's just, fear of saying what needs to be said, and it's understandable. It's not easy to do. I mean, relationships are difficult, but the consequence of not being able to speak straight, I think, is incredible for an organization and any relationship. But for an organization, when we don't speak straight, what happens is issues don't get brought forward. So if you're afraid to bring an issue forward for whatever consequence that might be, you're just simply not going to bring the issue forward. And if you think about that, what impact does that have on the organization if you're not willing to bring an issue forward? I can tell you, when I meet with new employees, that is one thing I tell every one of them is this is a great opportunity to, as you see things, because you're new, you have a different perspective, you see things differently, bring them forward. We don't have a monopoly on knowledge or processes. So I encourage people every time I meet with the new employees is to make sure they're bringing issues forward and just simply say, hey, have you thought about doing it this way, or question why are we doing it a certain way. But as a new employee, that's a great time to bring these issues forward. But you have to be willing to do it. And that's the difficult part, especially as a new employee. It's not easy, right, to come into a new organization and raise those questions. But I'm telling you, it's a much healthier organization if we can do that. And so we have to have the ability to, or the courage to speak straight with one another. A couple of examples are, the one sentence in here talks about conflict, and oftentimes I think people think that word is negative, and I don't see it that way. We talk often at senior management about healthy conflict, and when you get to a spot as an organization or as a team when you can have healthy conflict, it again will allow you to move forward and bring issues forward and resolve them in a much quicker way. Many of you have read the book, Five Dysfunctions of a Team. It's, I think, one of the best business books ever written. But chapter 2 talks about this concept of healthy conflict, and not only should you have it, but you have to have it to have an effective organization. You cannot ignore this piece. And so there's only 5 chapters in that book, by the way, and one whole chapter dedicated to healthy conflict. So now be mindful, healthy conflict doesn't give you a license to be an ass. That is not what it means. But again, you have to get to a spot where we have healthy conflict in order to move issues forward. I'll give you a quick example of this. For years, when I first started as CEO, the board of directors was not giving me my year-end performance review until about June or July of the following year. And then they weren't giving me goals for the year till about halfway through the year. And for the first couple of years, because I was new, I was afraid to bring the issue forward. And so I just let it be. But in working with my CEO coach, he commented, he said, if this is an issue and I'm on your board and you're not bringing it forward, he said, I would be very pissed off, and I would look at you as a CEO as you're not doing your job by bringing the issue forward. And so I had to work on how do I bring that forward, to get through this fear I had of the conflict that needed to happen. And so really what I did is I focused on how it made me feel. Number one, there can be no dispute on your feeling, right? If I just say, your actions make me feel this way, and I do that, in a respectful way, you're going to listen and not get defensive. And the other thing that I had to do, or that made it easier to do, is to point out the risk to the organization. That the board's primary function is to manage risk, and my job is then to bring risk forward so that they know how to manage them. And by not handling their relationship with their CEO in the right way, there was risk to the organization. And so once I talked about how it made me feel and the risk to the organization, it eliminated the fear that I had in having that conflict. So again, this a lot of people think they do well with this, but it simply is often them just dumping thoughts or feelings and not truly trying to solve problems or move things forward. And that, at its core, is what Speaking Straight should be, is the ability to help us all move forward. Thanks, and have a good week.